One main question I'll ask is, how much time throughout the day do you spend doing things just for you and not for other people to see you? We do a lot of things to be seen or to be understood, or even some things may be a cry for help. But how can we kind of channel that into pouring into ourselves? Sometimes we spend so much of our energy trying to pour into the approval of others in order to not feel lonely, but it only makes us feel more lonely because we're neglecting that energy to pour into us. We have everything that we need right inside of us. We just need to redirect that energy, redirect that focus. Hey y'all, welcome back to Holistic Flow. I am your girl Lolo, and in this video I'm going to be doing an updated video on my very popular video. It blew up over the past couple of months, so thank you to all the newer subscribers. Y'all are great, and then thank you to like the OGs. All of y'all are great as well. But the video that I'm talking about is the why you don't have friends and why you don't fit in video. So I'm gonna kind of like do a response video. A lot of you all had a lot of comments on there, and then as well a lot of questions about, okay, so how do I move forward from this? How do I actually become more enlightened within myself and find some friends? Or even how do I become more comfortable being and accepting this call that I have to kind of be in a season of isolation or in a lifetime of just pockets of being alone? That video was filmed a little over 2 years ago now. So, if you can just put yourself in my shoes, think of yourself now. Go back in time 2 years. Think of yourself 2 years ago, right? Are you still the same person? Probably not. If so, something might be a little off. The mindset that I had about a lot of things 2 years ago are just a bit different than today. I mean, they're still generally the same, but I did recently go back and watch the video, and I cringed while I watched it while simultaneously laughing at my younger version of myself. I appreciate every single person who commented. Sometimes I wasn't able to see every single comment because there were so many, but I would try to kind of like generalize and answer a lot of you all's feedback on the video. Before we get into this video, however, if you are new here to my channel, hello. Here on Holistic Flow, we are creating a safe space, a space for self-love, self-growth, and maturity, and we're taking a journey towards an overall better mind, body, and spirit connection. Who doesn't want that, right? So if you're with that, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Turn on your notifications so you know whenever I upload a new video. If you've done that, cool, thank you, I love you. And let's go ahead and get into this video. And one of the main things that I got out of the comments was, okay, I'm kind of realizing that it may be my destiny or however to answer to the call of being in a season of isolation, or just having my isolation from other people be used for the greater good. But how do I become okay with that? How do I get to a point where I'm okay with being lonely all the time? Being lonely and alone are two different things. A lot of us are called to be alone, but never feeling lonely in our aloneness. Alone is like you're physically alone and you don't have people around you and you don't have friends or even maybe acquaintances. But that doesn't mean that you have to feel lonely. A lot of our want to have people around us is a want to be loved, accepted, and understood. And sometimes we crave that from other people. One main law for life is that the origin of the things that we attract, whether it be situations, people, problems even, it comes from the work that we do inside of us. So the love that you receive or the acceptance that you receive from the people around you will originate for the love, self-respect, and understanding that you give yourself. I would say it starts from within. It starts with that self-work. Many people don't get comfortable with being alone physically until their later years in life, when they realize that as an adult, it's pretty difficult to make friends unless you are in a fraternity or sorority, Greek life, or if you're in clubs and activities, or if you make friends at work. As an adult, once you get into your adult years, if you haven't built certain skills within yourself to prepare yourself, it's mainly only going to get more difficult as we age. I feel like a lot of people on the video that were commenting about their loneliness were either my age or younger, from the age of maybe middle school into early adulthood. And some people may be able to tell my physical age, but like mentally, I can relate to even a lot of older adults. But unfortunately, a lot of younger people these days, because of social media and because of the way that our brains are trained these days, we don't develop the necessary social skills to be able to comfortably be in an environment with other people. A lot of people develop social anxiety at a younger age because the expectation of how somebody is supposed to be or the things that somebody is supposed to do doesn't meet the reality of who we actually are. And because of the perception that this illusion of social media and technology creates around a person, a lot of people may like the idea of you without actually liking you. And not that we should strive to be liked or strive to be accepted, because that strive and that chase is something that if we're always chasing it will never be fulfilled. If people don't end up liking us, we have no control over that. But simply what other people often see is a perception of ourselves by the way that we want people to perceive us. What we post or what we put out there is what we want people to see. And that creates a disconnect between who we truly are on the inside and what we show to everybody else. So the more you start to kind of get comfortable with yourself and peeling back the layers of this mask that you've put on to everybody around you, the more that you'll get comfortable with allowing the things that you attract to originate from inside. It really is a law, really, for life, that sometimes the situations in your life that you attract, and maybe even the reason that you don't have any friends, may not be because of some of the things that I even said in the video. It may not be because you are chosen by God or called by God. In a season, that is certainly true. And for a lot of people, it is true. However, for some people, it's simply the lack of ability that we have to communicate with other people. One main question I'll ask is, how much time throughout the day do you spend doing things just for you and not for other people to see you? We do a lot of things to be seen or to be understood, or even some things may be a cry for help. But how can we kind of channel that into pouring into ourselves? Sometimes we spend so much of our energy trying to pour into the approval of others in order to not feel lonely, but it only makes us feel more lonely because we're neglecting that energy to pour into us. We have everything that we need right inside of us. We just need to redirect that energy, redirect that focus, because your focus is going somewhere else. But sometimes being selfish and pouring it into yourself is one of the most selfless things that you can do. Because again, once you start pouring into yourself, loving yourself, understanding yourself, validating yourself, then ultimately what you can attract is that from other people. But that's not directly what we should chase. It should originate from us chasing and valuing this self-love. Now that brings me to my next point, which was a lot of people were asking, so how do I answer this call specifically from God, from divine? And also to answer some people's questions, no, I'm not new age, whatever that may mean to you. I follow the preachings and teachings of Jesus Christ. I always have. Some things that I may do may resemble things from New Age, yoga, meditation, or some of the beliefs that I have, or spiritual beliefs, or what have you. But I mean, you can perceive whatever you want, but I just know where my things originate from. So that's kind of all that I need to say. From my perspective, my relationship with God allowed me to be a lot more comfortable being by myself and being in silence. One of the activities I would highly recommend is trying to spend 1 hour of silence. Take one day out of your week. Take 1 hour out of that day to take away all distractions. No TV, no Netflix or whatever shows you watch, no phone. Turn off all music, background noise, and for 1 hour, embrace silence and see what comes up. In my opinion, there's nothing specific that you have to do to hear from God. If you don't believe me, check the Bible. The Bible is full of people who have done much more horrible things that a lot of us have done today, but God still was able to use them to do wonderful things, and God was still able to talk to them, right? I mean, just if you read the New Testament, the story of Acts, Romans, and Corinthians, Paul was a person in the Bible who used to kill Christians, and God talked to him and told him to get up from where he was at and start pouring into other people. When you get to spend time in silence, you get to see that God is in everything. There's nothing that can separate us from God, because if you watch the first video, I mentioned that we all have this kind of twofold part to ourselves. The ego self, which is what we are, like how we want ourselves to be portrayed by other people. It's the physical layer on top, our flesh, our ego. And then we have our divine self, and our divine self is part of what people would call intuition, what have you, and that's the part that God pours into. And so we all have access to that at any time. If you just spend more time listening and avoiding distractions, really, that's the practice of meditation. It's listening and being in a receptive state so that you can receive that ultimate self-love. All right, so another idea that I came across is that those who don't have friends, most of those, they're actually not necessarily chosen, they just simply have social issues. This is very subjective because as I touched on before, a lot of us, because of today's day and age of how we are able to portray ourselves as something different than what we truly are, we don't even really know ourselves enough to decide how we want to navigate in the world. It's very difficult to find peace within knowing the type of people that you want to be surrounded with when you don't even know yourself. So I will say that having, social anxiety or a lack of communication skills is can be very detrimental to you being able to have friends. One of my, I would say, friends in college had social quirk. When they got around certain people, they would not be able to make eye contact with them. They would be able to make conversation with somebody who is sitting right beside them. However, they had a lot of trouble making eye contact, and I believe that it was stemming from a lot of other social problems that they may have had and a lack of ability to communicate. And for me, if I'm talking to somebody, especially if they're my friend, I am going to make eye contact with them. Like that's just a social skill that, but for me, it's more so of a spiritual thing too. I mean, everything is spiritual for me, right? But when you look into somebody's eyes, it's kind of like a sign that you're acknowledging them. You're acknowledging their presence and that you see them. Like it's not only figuratively, it's literally, I see you, like I'm looking into your soul, into your spirit. And I feel like for a lot of people, making eye contact is a very vulnerable thing because of that, because deep down we low-key know that it's kind of spiritual, like I'm looking into your soul type stuff. But it's kind of like little things like that you can start to practice being comfortable with looking people in the eyes, turning your body or your upper body or shoulders toward the person who you're talking to. If somebody's right next to you and somebody comes up to you and they're right here, but you're talking to them like this, that's not, practicing good social skills. A lot of this just comes from a foundational aspect of being comfortable enough and confident enough in yourself. So I feel like it all stems back from the first point, being comfortable, being alone, because in that way you can build a lot of confidence. Now, as far as the spiritual sense, answering the call from God, when you get a relationship with God, you realize that God is spirit, right? A lot of us try to personify God into like a person or an entity or that has feelings and emotions. But if God is source, and so God is the creator of everything, right? God isn't a being. God just is. And even the fact that we, sometimes like put a gender on God, like he or, whatever. I feel like even that is just so that human beings can understand the concept of God, because God is so big that we sometimes, we want to be able to understand why certain things happen the way they do. So we put a gender to God. We kind of like personify God and like this person and picture him with human qualities and emotions and feelings. But God is source. God is creation. To me, God is in the trees. God is in the ground. God is in the sky. God is in the clouds. God is in the house across from my street. Like, when you realize that everything created in God's image is a lot like that, realize that sometimes the things that we get anxious about, they don't mean anything. The way that we often get anxious about even wanting to be accepted is often out of fear, out of mistrust, out of traumatic experiences that, yes, we have to sometimes do some mental healing from, but a lot of the things in life we're trying to fight physically, but they're not our physical fight, because we don't live life in the physical. The physical is simply an illusion. I may be going down a rabbit hole here for some people, but physicality is an illusion. I think somebody had commented on that video, or maybe another video. They asked, isn't spirituality an illusion? I think the real illusion is the physical life that we live, because the life in the spiritual sense, the life that dwells within us, that everything that we can't see is the real, and everything that we can see is the perception. And perception isn't true because it differs based upon people's lived experiences. So if what you're fighting in the physical, whether it be a bully, whether it be people that are mean to you and rude to you every day, or the trauma that you've been through physically as a child, all of that, yes, can follow us, but that's off of emotion, and we can't often trust our emotions because they're fickle, and once we get caught up in our emotions, they skew our perception of reality. So in essence, I can tie this all in together to say that with my experience knowing God, I really got to see that a lot of the things that we're anxious about, that we're stressed about, in the grand scheme of things, they shouldn't matter to us that much, because life is too short to be worrying about certain things. And the more that we worry, because worry is an emotion, the more that we worry, we end up repeating and playing scenarios built by fear in our head. And fear is generated from past thoughts or future anxieties, and we replay those things in our head, but we don't live in the past or the future. We only have the present. But the more that you replay those things over and over in your head, you end up creating your fears. You end up manifesting your fears, because our mind is the blueprint for reality. And because God is source, God is creation, we have God inside of us, we are able to create our reality. I like to think of it as this: 50% of how we live is maybe not under our control, right? But the other 50% is completely under our control. And a lot of how we react to adverse situations, it's a test to see how you will react, so that will you react with resiliency, or will you get stuck inside of your emotions? It starts with the little things that you do every day. So that's why I recommended that, just take that time out of your day, maybe an hour throughout the day, turn off all distractions, and really sit with yourself and build up that self-love within yourself, because a lot of us are missing that. And that's literally the source to every other thing in your life. The grand question. Okay, so how do I make friends? Well, with everything that I've said in this video, of how you have seen that what you do on the inside attracts the things on the outside. I'm sure some of you have probably seen a pattern in your own life or in the lives of others or those around you, which is that if you are insecure within yourself, then what you will probably attract as far as friends when you go to look for them is other insecure friends. And I mean, I feel like, can we normalize that, especially in your adolescence, right? That's okay, because I feel like a lot of us need these type of experiences to grow. I was once a lot less confident than what I am now. And I feel like I needed that season of not being so confident, being anxious about what other people thought of me. But that season of isolation was so that I could get closer to God, one, and get more love for myself. There's this saying that says, in order to get what you want, you have to be accepting of the opposite. Basically, you can never get up if you don't notice you have fallen. If you want to be accepted, you have to be willing that some people are not going to accept you. In order to get love, you have to be willing to accept that some people are going to hate you. And so in order to get the friends that I currently have now, which is a great, wonderful group of people, I had to be accepting of isolation. Like I said, the original video was filmed 2 years ago, more than that. So in that season, I was truly in a season of isolation where I could confidently say that I had one friend. Some people don't even have that, but I was okay with only having one friend. And I was okay with sometimes not even having anybody to tell my secrets to. So if you are in a season of isolation, embrace that. Sometimes we can end up being fearful that we'll always be isolated. And sometimes we can end up manifesting our fears because our mind creates our outside reality. But learn that you can release your anxieties, release the feeling of, or the want to always be accepted, because you have built that self-love and that you can always accept yourself and be cool with that. And I know that's easy for me to say because I'm an INTJ or whatever, but even people with other personality types, they can do this within their own means, in their own way. I really hope that this was helpful, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like this video, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, I'm sending peace your way, love your way, and joy to you, your family, and your friends. All right, y'all. Peace.